never gonna have like a Ronaldo and Messi like ever again.
This quarterback did this on my team. I wouldn't block for him anymore. I would just sit him down for the rest of the year. I was like, whoa.
They're flying under him already. I mean, obviously it's one
That's
game.
how it
It's kind of like
always is, man. As
it's
soon as
the
they
new
kick
manager.
out the Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the From the Stands podcast. We're back for episode number 42 on this 31st day of October here on Halloween in 2024. We are back with another episode full of big-time storylines, not just in the world of football over here, but in football as well. We'll have some big-time results from over in the pond. Also some big-time firings as far as coaches are concerned. And then the best, quote-unquote, best player in the world award was given out this past week. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. But before we get into all of that, Fezzy boy, what we got going on this Halloween evening? You doing any trick-or-treating with the little man? I know he's not quite old enough yet, but...
Not yet. He is dressed like a little dinosaur right now, which is pretty adorable. But we did our church's trunk or treat, and then we're handing out some tracts and candy tonight. At the front door, so
nice.
For sure doing some stuff, but we are not trick-or-treating ourselves. Haven't done that in quite some time. Did you ever trick-or-treat as a kid? We did a little bit, but not a lot.
I've never trick-or-treated actually in my entire life.
Was that you or your parents' thing or both?
Honestly, I think it was more because of like there was just never an opportunity. It was never really a thing in Romania, to be honest. And like when we were over here, we didn't really do anything for it. Like I remember being at my grandparents' a couple times and giving out candy, but never really did it myself. And yeah, I don't know. Never really seemed like my thing, really, like dressing up and going to collect candy.
Yeah.
But I see why people enjoy it, I guess. But
I mean, free candy, like who doesn't like that? I'm not much of a candy guy, though, now that I'm older.
Right.
Definitely did some trick-or-treating when I was younger. My dad used to work at a senior home as a maintenance guy, and they all loved us. So we'd go trick-or-treating there, and that was about it. But yeah, I can't remember the last time I've actually gone trick-or-treating.
Yeah, I was actually curious now that we have our new house and stuff, like if we'd get any trick-or-treaters, but it's now 7:34 p.m. and we haven't gotten one soul, so hopefully it stays that way because we don't have candy.
Like, are your neighbors, like, would you say, or like the demographic around you is kind of like older people?
Yeah, at least on our street for sure. There's some kids in our neighborhood, but I'm not sure where they're going to be going or anything like that, so...
Gotcha. And yeah, your neighborhood's a little more spread out than ours is. Like the houses, definitely. Like your lots are a little bigger than ours. So
yeah, a little bit. It's a little bit more
makes sense.
Spread out.
But... Yeah, but speaking of being a kid, we don't talk about baseball very much on this podcast, but we did just have the World Series happen. Obviously, I grew up people don't normally know that I'm from New York, but obviously I'm from New York, and obviously because of that, I'm a Yankees fan. Grew up a Yankees fan. And obviously it was the Yankees and the Dodgers in the World Series. I was definitely tuned in, dude. And it like took me back because I used to like religiously only watch baseball growing up because I played soccer and baseball until 7th grade. And so I was like all in baseball, dude. Like that's all I thought about, practiced. But anyways, it took me back watching the Fall Classic again. Obviously kind of a disappointment. Yankees couldn't pull off the comeback, kind of fell apart in the 5th last night, but it was just fun to kind of watch it again. So that you could say that's kind of something new going on with me anyways, just enjoying a little bit of baseball again.
Yeah, for sure. I found myself watching a little bit. I still didn't watch any of the games in full or anything like that, but I found myself watching a little bit of baseball during the World Series. I kind of hoped that it was going to be New York versus New York in the final. Or in the World Series. That would have been cool. But we got the evil team out west versus the evil team out east kind of thing. I saw that in a couple billboards or whatever. But yeah, it was a good series. I thought it was crazy that Freddie Freeman went on. I like Freddie Freeman a lot. So he just getting that MVP after homering in 4 of the 5 games is crazy. So
crazy,
props
dude.
To him.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man, for sure. Yeah, he totally went off. He haunted us for sure. Like, I remember him at the Braves, man. I think he was on like a 6 consecutive like World Series game with a homer, and like, dude was just breaking every record. Like, was going on with a bum ankle, and turns out he had like a broken rib as well. Like, dude is just a gamer.
Yeah, his story is super cool as well. Like, I'm a little bit of a Braves fan because of my grandma. So if I have a team, that's kind of who I say I root for. So obviously that's kind of why I like Freddie Freeman. But obviously coming to the Braves, spending like 11, 12 years out there, getting a World Series ring, and then going back home to California and getting a World Series ring with them and getting an MVP is just a super super good feel good story, I guess. So
Yeah,
big props to
definitely
him.
was low key rooting for him as well. But
Yeah, yeah. You think the Yankees make it back though?
I don't know. They're gonna have a lot of turnover. Juan Soto was like 5 minutes after the game was already like, "Yeah, I'll hear from every team," and I was just like,
Yeah,
"Awesome, great." Like
yeah.
obviously we have Judge and Stanton for a while, but we gotta fill some guys in. Like I mean, they struggle. I guess Stanton didn't really
Why
struggle, but
wouldn't he
Judge
stay? Where's he gonna
money.
go that's better?
He's
Uh,
25, 26, and he's just like his next contract. He's played it so well that it's gonna be. I was hearing today 7 or 8 $100 million
hmm I
guaranteed money.
Yeah, I always forget that there's no salary cap in baseball, which is wild to me. Which is
Mhm.
also the reason that the Dodgers can just stack like every good player ever. Like I, I wasn't really realizing this. Obviously, like we've said multiple times, I'm not really a baseball fan, but like I knew almost all the players from the Dodgers. Like they have Betts, they have Walker Bueller, who I actually knew. They have Clayton Kershaw, they have who else? Freddie Freeman, obviously, Otani now. Like they can just
Yeah,
that's insane. Like they
stack.
literally have the Avengers over there, which is insane to me. So
Yeah, they're gonna start a
even
dynasty for sure. It's gonna be nuts
yeah,
over there for a while.
crazy. Got to
Yeah.
get Trout out of the Angels. He's the
Dude,
only
I would
missing
love to see him.
piece.
I would. That's the one guy I would love to see win a World Cup, other than Judge. A World Cup, World Series. Other than Judge, but yeah, I don't know
Poor
if the
guy's
Yankees
been
will do it.
stuck on the
We'll see.
Angels forever.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see for sure.
Alrighty. Well, with that being said about baseball, a team, sport that both of us aren't very, very interested in, we will get into the football and the football part of the podcast here in just a second. So here we go.
All right, a lot of news coming out of the NFL this week. Some really weird news coming out. Micah is actually at my house, one of our friends who is a Colts fan. I
Nice.
actually asked him right before I hopped on the pod what he thought about this. His answer was a little not what I was expecting. We'll get into that a little bit, but the headline that I'm talking about is Anthony Richardson taps out in the middle of the game, comes out
Mm,
after the game saying he was just tired. So, and obviously 2 days later, for whatever reason, they're saying it's not because of this. It could be because of this, but he is now benched for Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco will now be the starting QB for the Indianapolis Colts. Sammy boy, what is your opinion on a NFL quarterback tapping out of a game?
oh boy. Yeah, not a great look for all AR 15 as he's called, or I guess it's not 15 anymore, AR 5. Yeah, not a good look for him for sure. He does run a lot. I will give him that, but after that play, it just seemed like a very, very just a play that's kind of a normal part of a drive. And like you were saying, pretty rare for a quarterback to tap on his helmet, tell he needs a break. And he didn't. Did he come back in the game, or was it just a couple
I,
plays? I forget
I think
exactly, but
I didn't look into it super hard. I was listening to
okay.
some people. I think he did tap out for a little bit and then he came back in. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, he like took
And
like
it,
a break.
yeah, anyway, super strange. I was seeing a lot of the very harsh reaction by a lot of like O linemen and stuff. Like if my quarterback did that, I wouldn't want to block for him anymore, blah blah blah. Honestly, I didn't realize that it was like as big of a deal as the media reaction was afterwards. I was like, oh, like by former players are like, yeah, this was like I said, if this quarterback did this on my team, I wouldn't block for him anymore. I would just sit him down for the rest of the year. I was like, whoa, like wasn't expecting that reaction, I guess, but I kind of see
Yeah.
where they're coming from. Quitting on your team, I guess, is how it's been perceived. I'm not sure exactly if that was his intention. If he was just fed up of kind of the game and not doing too well, or what was going on for real in his head. But he said he was tired. Didn't really look like he was that tired. But they have a competent backup, so if they obviously they're kind of going to Flacco now, so obviously they have a pretty good backup that can lead them and be competent. But yeah, not a great look for the second year man for sure early on in his career. So
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah, I was talking to Micah before the podcast and I just flat out asked him, I was like, what did you think of it? And he took a different approach. Like, I thought he was just going to rip into him and be like, dude, I don't want my quarterback doing that. But he was saying, like, they've spent so much draft capital in getting this guy, I think 4th overall 2 years ago.
Yeah, they traded up,
And
didn't they?
yeah, traded up. And obviously he missed last season, like played, what he played, like 3 games, 2
Yeah,
games, something
he's
like
out
that.
for the rest of the year. Yeah.
Out for the rest of the year with a shoulder injury, had shoulder surgery. So obviously some could say that this is technically his rookie season, which I agree with. But
Hmm.
Micah was saying we spent so much draft capital on him, like just get him to like 15 games, see if he does any better, and then you can bench him. I
Yeah.
think there was a little bit more involved with like the tapping out and like just the culture that sets. Like her starting QB is literally taking about, like you look at Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson, who's literally running around everywhere all night long,
Yeah. Well,
and you're tapping out.
I think like the reason I asked that earlier was like it's different if, you know, if you're out for a play or two, like yeah, you might actually be tired, but like if you're just gonna sit the rest of the game, then it's like, dude, you're not tired. You're just like trying to get out of the game, which is strange. So, but
Right.
yeah, I kind of agree with that point of view as well. Like, with a young quarterback too, like you got to protect him. Obviously, he's a guy that's prone to running a little bit more like a Lamar. But even so, he has to protect himself. He has to slide things like that. So I think they gotta try a little bit more to keep him upright and everything. But yeah, we'll see kind of where his career goes from here. But yeah, not a
Yeah.
great look, I guess. So
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like you said, Joe Flacco is definitely competent enough to win them football games, and so we'll see how the rest of the season goes. Summer's like it's unclear on if he's like getting benched for like the rest of the season or like for the next like 3 games or whatever. They just said for the time being, Joe Flacco's their starting quarterback. So
yeah, the only thing I saw in it was that it's indefinite. So it's not for the season, but it's for the foreseeable future. Like they don't have a plan necessarily to bring him back for the next 2 or 3 games, I guess. But and one last thing I was going to say was like it's crazy that I think there's some kind of stat that since high school he's only played like 15, 20 games, including college in total.
hmm
So he just doesn't
right,
have like the amount of experience and just the snaps under his belt as a lot of the other guys do, like a Brock Purdy who started like 5 years in college or whatever it was. Like obviously I've been on the show before saying that I don't think Purdy is as good as everybody makes him out to be, but obviously he has the experience of starting all those games in college, probably all 4 years in high school. So he's just got the snaps and experience and the head knowledge of what it takes to be a quarterback at least. And I think that's something that could hurt Anthony Richardson at least early on in his NFL career. So,
right. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that story, see where this goes. Obviously, like we are saying, could be, I wouldn't say forever, but and I don't see the Colts getting rid of him. But moving
no,
on to
definitely
a
not
couple
this early.
quarterbacks that, yeah, they wouldn't punt on him now. Like you said, he's had like 10 games in the NFL. Dude needs a
Yeah.
little bit more time, kind of like what Mike is saying. But moving on to a couple of quarterbacks that, well, one is doing well, one's not doing so well, but gets paid a crap ton of money. But Cowboys versus 49ers. This was last Sunday night. Sammy Boy, as the resident Cowboys fan, how you feeling about your season right now?
Yeah, not great, but this was predicted.
I think the
Um,
yeah,
the game was not as close as the final score line made it out to be. We scored a couple touchdowns pretty late in the fourth quarter to make it look like it was a better game than it was. Yeah, not a great showing all around. We could not get anything. We can't run the ball worth anything. I'm pretty sure that we're the only
Mm-mm.
team that has not had one run over 15 yards this entire year so far. The only team. So like obviously our run game, we can't run anything. We only throw the ball to CeeDee Lamb because he's basically our only competent receiver. Our defense is obviously not as strong as it was last year. We had a couple good stops, honestly, especially in the second half. So they weren't terrible, but yeah, just not great. I kind of knew that the 49ers always beat us, as everyone knows at this point. So there's just not like we're not gonna we're not a team that's gonna rebuild either. Like Jerry's too obsessed with the big names, so we're gonna rebuild
Mm-hmm.
around Dak and CD and Micah Parsons and see where we go from there. But yeah, it's tough so far. So
Yeah, you guys need a running back. You guys need to tank. I mean, you're not trying to tank, but you're kind of tanking already. But that running back from Boise State who's popping off, everyone's saying you guys should really
yeah,
try to get him.
I would love
He's a
that.
senior, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think he is.
I think
Sounds
he's a
right.
senior. Either way, he's
Even
probably
if
going to
he's a
go.
junior, he'll probably go to the NFL. But
Yeah, he'll go to the end. Someone will get him, and people are saying you guys should pick him up because your
speaking of
running back
which, he
rooms.
definitely needs to win the Heisman this year. Like,
Oh, absolutely. Like all
yeah,
this um Hunter,
Travis
what's
Hunter.
his name? Travis Hunter, like
Yeah,
dude, like okay, yeah, he plays two-way, but like this dude is like putting Boise State on the map. Like everybody knows who Colorado is because of Dion.
yeah.
Like I mean,
I'm.
yeah,
I remember I knew who Boise State was because of Kellen Moore in the blue field, like back in the
that's right.
2010s. But yeah, he's definitely putting up crazy numbers. Granted, in a little bit of a lesser conference, but still, I'd give him the
But still,
nod.
I
He's
think
on.
they're
Go ahead.
good. I think they're ranked right now. Like they're like 15, so they're close to that
Yeah,
playoff spot.
yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah,
If they win out, they should definitely get in for sure. So,
for sure,
but
for
yeah, he's
sure.
on pace with Barry Sanders' record season right now as far as
That's
touchdowns
insane.
and yards. So, see if he gets it.
Yeah.
But anyway, that was a little bit of a digression there.
Yeah, that's crazy though, dude. Like if you're in the same conversation with Barry Sanders, dude, like you're doing something incredibly right.
Cowboys get
Uh
him.
Sam's putting that in right now. Jerry, figure it out. Figure it
That's
out. I
right.
don't care.
Jerry
He's
will never
also
figure it out.
yeah, no, absolutely not. He's how old is Jerry? Jerry's like 80,
He's in
86 or
his
something like that,
80s,
right?
probably. No, he's not that old. He's in his early
Not
80s,
that old.
though. Yeah,
Early
something
80s,
like that.
83. All right. Well,
Yeah.
figure it out, Jerry. Sam wants you to figure it out. Moving on to Cincinnati and the Eagles. This was another big game. Cincinnati kind of. I asked you before the we started the podcast, but you think Cincinnati season's kind of punted at this moment?
They're teetering, man. They have a must-win game against Las Vegas coming up this week, but yeah, they're not sitting too pretty. It's kind of like my Cowboys right now, 3-5. Not a great situation for them to be in. Obviously, they have all the pieces, at least on offense, to be able to be a contender in the AFC, but not looking like it so far. So at 3-6, that'd be a tough place to turn it around from, especially in a division that has Pittsburgh and Baltimore. Pittsburgh actually sitting at the top of that division right now at 6-2, but Baltimore obviously coming on strong as well, and they have a potential MVP candidate in Lamar once again. So yeah, absolute must-win game at Las Vegas this weekend.
Absolutely, absolutely. Flipping it over to the other side of the field, the Eagles kind of finding their footing a little bit. I know we're kind of all ready to punt on Sirianni and Hurts and all of them. Kind of just like I don't know, just not the Eagles that were in the Super Bowl 2 or 3 years ago. And
Hmm.
obviously getting rid of Kelsey's a glue guy kind of can leave the locker room in turmoil, but kind of find their way now, slowly getting back like
A little bit.
riding Saquon, and that's why you brought him in to
Yeah.
run the ball. But how do you see their season finishing out? Still could win their division with Washington really being is it Washington? Yeah, Washington really
Yeah.
being the only ones to push at the top of that division.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely with the Cowboys falling off a little bit. It's definitely a two team race with the Eagles and the Command. Actually think the Commanders are probably going to win um,
Mm,
that division, which would be really solid for Jaden Daniels. Just looking at some of the teams that the Eagles have beaten, though, their four of their 5 wins were against teams with negative records now: Saints,
right.
Browns, Giants, and Bengals. So not great teams that they're beating, but I mean you can only play who's in front of you. So they're obviously boasting a 5-2 record. So good on them for that. But I think we saw it a little bit at the tail end of last year, where they kind of started to tail off a little bit and not be as good, at least against, above teams that are 500 or above. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm still waiting kind of for them to play a pretty good team and beat them this year because they still haven't done that. But yeah, like you said, they keep riding Saquon, which is what you got to do for sure. So yeah, they keep it rolling for sure. So we'll see how they're able to go up against some of the in division opponents like the Cowboys and Commanders. I think they have them in like the next 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll see how
Mm-hmm.
they fare against them, and then we can make a little bit of a better judgment on them. But right now they're rolling.
Yeah, yeah. I think the Eagles beat Washington, in my personal opinion. Washington, their defense is getting better, but it's nothing to really hang your hat on. They're just kind of they're out sprinting people at this point, just putting up disgusting points, and it all rides on Jaden Daniels' health too.
Mm.
He got hurt this past week. No, 2 weeks ago he got hurt, some abdomen issue, but we'll see with his health if they
They have
can
more
keep making a good
experience than
run.
the Commanders too, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of a team that is really, really good, and some people are saying got better, the Ravens trade for you're gonna have Deontay. Is it Deontay Johnson?
Deontay, Deontay
Deontay Johnson.
Johnson.
I knew I was gonna butcher it, man. I knew it. That's why you're here, Sam.
That's
Dude,
right.
that pod that I was doing
Yeah,
by
we
myself,
back.
I just stayed away from all the names. I was like, there's no one here to bail me out if I say the wrong thing.
Mr.
But anyways,
Johnson.
Mr. Johnson, that's right. Traded to the Ravens from Carolina. They also did like some, I don't know the specifics, but they just did like some really good business. The Ravens did. I think something about somehow they can get back like a
It's a pick
better,
swap. Yeah.
yeah, pick swap. Yeah.
hmm
Then they got like, they can potentially get a better pick. Like, is there
Yeah,
contingency on it?
I think it's conditional based on like if like how many catches he gets, also if they make the Super Bowl, yada yada. There's like some conditions like
Gotcha.
that in there. So
Yeah. Well, do you think this moves the needle up for the Ravens, who already have obviously a very, very good offense? Do you think it helps or kind of keeps their
yeah, I
floor where it
mean,
is?
it can't hurt, I guess. I thought they already have a pretty decent receiving core. I think they needed more help on the defensive side of the ball because right now their
Mhm.
secondary is just really exposed, and they've been letting everybody pass all over them. But yeah, Deontay Johnson's kind of prone to drops as well. Um, only reason I know this is because he was on a couple of my fantasy teams, but he gets a lot of targets, but there's a lot of times he just drops the ball in open space. So if he can clean that up, I think he can be a weapon for them. But I don't think it makes them like markedly better. It's not like, oh yeah, he's the missing piece. But like I said, he definitely can't hurt. So he's a decent receiver for sure.
Yeah. Did that have any fantasy implications for you? I saw you traded him away.
I did,
Like,
yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
traded him to Nathan.
Him and Pickens, yeah. I traded for Brian Robinson of the Commanders. So
Did
Deontay
it hurt a
Johnson
little bit to see that, or
that he was traded.
yeah, like he's going to a competent quarterback now, not
He,
Dalton or Bryce Young.
A little bit, but at the same time, it was like he's still probably going to be inconsistent because if you look at his fantasy points, it's like 19 one week, 2 the next, and then like 18 the
Mm,
next week, and then 4. So it's just like I didn't like the inconsistent. Same with Pickens. Like one year,
mm,
one week he'll have 15, the next he'll have like 6 or whatever. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean, it was funny because like as soon as that trade went through, literally about 45 minutes after that happened, I saw the trade. I was like, "Are you serious right now?" So yeah, I still think that I don't know. I don't regret it because I'm
Yeah,
getting like a solid 16, 17 point producer back, and that's what I
right.
really wanted. And he's gonna spread it around a little bit more, so it's not like he's only gonna be throwing to Deontay. He's not that kind of target. But yeah, it was a little bit of a questioning right after that happened. I was like, bro, really? Because like half
Yeah,
the
I
reason
did.
I did trade him, I was like, because he's on Carolina, like they're not gonna be doing anything. But
Right.
whatever.
Right. Yeah, I did see that right after you traded him. I was like, oh boy. But like
He's
you
been
said, they already
questionable
have.
too, so
Yeah, that's true. But like you said, they already have weapons at the Ravens. Like his points might go up a little bit just because like he's more open
yeah,
and he has a quarterback that can actually get him the ball when he's open. But like, how much more does that go up? Probably not a
yeah.
lot. The one I'm interested in though is Pickens with Russell Wilson. They
Mhm.
seem to unlock, like, it's been 2 games, so I can't, like, nothing's for sure,
Yeah.
obviously. But just like the difference between Justin Field and Russell Wilson, you know, and being able to
Yeah.
get the ball to someone like Pickens, who's a down the field threat, his points could uptick as well. So, but
Yeah.
like you said, you got
We'll
you
see.
got what you wanted out of the deal, and I don't think Deontay going to the Ravens really makes him like a world breaker at this point.
Right.
But keeping it with wide receivers, a little bit of bad news coming out. Stephon Diggs is out for the season. Really
Another
kind of
injury,
hurts.
man.
Another injury. Get him real grass. No turf. No more turf.
Seriously though.
But
Was his injury because of the turf?
I don't know. It was a
Oh, okay.
non-contact injury, so I'm assuming like yeah, like
Man.
your cleat gets stuck in the like these guys are so twitchy, dude. Like there has to be some sort of natural give on the ground because they're just freaks, man. They're putting so much strain on their joints like every time they move. It's
Yeah.
insane. But
Yeah,
do you think
it's crazy to
right?
me that like all these NFL owners are willing to switch to the grass for their World Cup that's coming up in a couple years, and then they won't do it for the NFL. Like the
Yeah.
NFL is the biggest like money making league on the planet right now. Like they're up there with like the Premier League and stuff, and they still
Hmm.
can't just give their guys grass. Why? Because you want to have concerts in the summer? Like it's just so
Yeah.
dumb to me. The stadiums, they don't even really use them outside of the season. They're just constantly like, you know, getting it ready for the season and whatever else they're doing on tours or whatever. So they could definitely do it if they wanted to. Just wild to me with the amount of money that they have. Same with like we still have part-time refs. Like we can't pay the refs a
Right.
full-time salary. Like what are we doing here? We got like lawyers out there reffing NFL football games. I'm like, bro,
Yeah,
uh,
exactly. I mean, that makes like zero sense. Like, there's so much money, but that at the same time, it does make sense because all these owners who have so much money, they're just trying to cut corners wherever they can. Like, that's just kind of like,
yeah,
I don't know. I feel like that's in the DNA of like a millionaire or something. Like, I got here by like, using my money, like stretching it as far as it could go, and now that I have it, it's like I still have that mentality. It's like, oh, what are we doing? But
right.
definitely hurts the Texans losing another weapon. And yeah, hopefully Diggs can come back even stronger. He's not super young, kind of on the tail. I want to say like tail end, but definitely past the middle of his career for sure. So hopefully he can come back and still have a good
Yeah.
end of his career and be productive. But keeping it with the Texans, we're gonna preview the game tonight, which is starting in like 15 minutes. Jets versus the Texans. Wildly, the Jets are favorited in this game, I think, due to
Really?
injury. Yeah. And everyone was like, dude, the Jets are
Oh,
favored, but I think it has a lot to do with injury, Stephon Diggs, and then who else are they're missing? I can't remember his name.
is it Nico Collins?
Nico Collins is out, yes.
Oh,
So
okay.
definitely kind of injury riddled right now.
Yeah.
But you see winning this game, and do you think it's obviously a must win for the Jets? But do you think if they lose tonight, it's really just like done and dusted? We were talking about this
Yeah.
earlier,
I
but
mean, it's got to be, yeah, done and dusted if they lose this game. It's kind of done and dusted once you lose to the 1-6 New England Patriots last week. But
oh
yeah,
man,
if they can't put it together today, people are talking about like maybe trading some pieces away. I can't really see them doing that. But yeah, it's just crazy how badly this quote unquote experiment, there we go, has gone this year. I had them, what did I say, going to the AFC Championship at least at the beginning of the season. So it's crazy how much this team has crashed and burned so far. I think there's still a chance. Obviously you got the big time connection with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers, so they can still maybe give them a spark. They still have obviously really good pieces with Brees Hall and Garrett Wilson that have always been there, and so there's no real reason why the team shouldn't be going. Obviously, the defense is a lot worse than they were last year. And it's crazy how good that they think that they are, but they can't stop people when it matters. So, yeah, definitely a must win for them. I do think that they're probably going to win tonight, just because, I mean, if they don't, like this is kind of when your back is up against the wall, you got to do something. So, I see them winning tonight, but it'll be a close game, I think, for sure. CJ Stroud's not, he's coming off a couple weeks where he's struggled, so he's gonna have something to prove as well. So we'll see.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Kind of reminds me of like Chelsea when they were buying all those players for a while, and they were just like on paper, like we should be like really good, but like it doesn't
Mm,
work that way. Like the roster on paper doesn't go out there and play the games for you. So it's like it has to all come together, fit together the right way. You have to have the right coach to put it all together, and their owners could just drop the ball on a lot of things. So it'll be interesting to see. I do think the Jets win tonight too. I think the Texans are a little too depleted to beat them tonight. If the Jets defense can put together, I mean, they're a decent, like again, it's on paper, but they're a decent. They were a decent side with solid there. I think they were only allowing like 15 or 17 points. Now they're allowing like 23 on
mm,
average in the last like 2-3 games.
yeah.
So, but if they can put it together, they can stop a lot of offenses, especially a depleted Texans offense. That's going to do it for the NFL portion of this segment. We're going to just mention this game because it is a top five matchup. I think it's number three versus number four, Ohio State versus Penn State. I honestly haven't been keeping up with a lot of college football, and I think that's due to the fact like these games don't mean like a lot. Like last year, if this was a 3-4, this would be huge because whoever wins this would be like solidifying themselves in that top 4 conversation, opposed to like now we have 12. So like even if they lose and then they lose again and they drop to like 10, you're still in the playoffs. Obviously, you want home field advantage, but like these games just really don't mean as much because there's so much more room for error. But I don't know if you've been keeping up with it, what your thoughts are about it, but I think
Yeah.
Ohio State pulls it off. I think they've been more consistent, but what do you say?
Yeah, I've been keeping up with college football. I love college football. Passion, tradition, everything is starting to die with all the conference realignment, but it's still there. Enjoy it for the time being. But yeah, this is a huge game. Obviously, college football playoff implications. I do think that Ohio State will probably win this game. Penn State over the last couple of years, they've always been ranked pretty high. They kind of roll through the Big Ten, the teams that they should be beating, teams like Purdue, Michigan State, and teams like that. They'll beat those teams, but then when they run into the big boys of the league, teams like Ohio State and Michigan last year, and they just don't have quite enough to get them over the hump. I see that happening again this year. They have the same quarterback as last year, who's kind of been prone to crumbling it in big time spots. Obviously, it's a big game for him. I think he's from Ohio, so I think there's going to be kind of a little bit of a thing going on there. He'll have something to prove. So we'll see if he's able to kind of avenge his past games against big time teams and get them over the top. But I do see the Ohio State winning this one.
Yeah, it'll definitely be a good matchup for sure. That's at 12 on Fox. I don't even know what I'm doing Saturday, dude. I don't know what I'm doing day to day. I would love to be able to sit down and watch that game. Probably have to catch the highlights. We got Premier League action going on as well. But yeah, I don't know. Just with the 12-team playoff, near the end of the season when it's like, you got like 13, 14, 15 kind of battling it out to see who's going to get that like last spot, it'll start getting like really interesting. But like when you're at the top, especially near the end of the season, it's like, okay, these games don't matter as much anymore. But like you said, the tradition's still there. College game day is still hype with Pat McAfee for sure. But
It's nuts, dude.
dude, he's insane. Did you watch any of their podcasts today with them all dressed up?
Yeah, he was in a panda
Dude,
suit or whatever.
him in the panda suit, dude, was so like every time the camera like panned back to him, I was just like, dude, this is why they're so good because it's just so funny,
Dude, he's a Hall
so
of
funny.
Fame entertainer for sure.
Oh, for sure, for sure. He's gonna be when everything's said and done, he's gonna be up there for sure. They're gonna have to make another category for him because he's kind of breaking a lot of boxes.
He
But
really
yeah,
is.
catch those games this weekend, guys. We'll be watching them for sure. But this is gonna do it for this part of the podcast.
Hopping over the pond to another segment of football over in Europe. We had some really, really good games this past weekend. We'll start out with my boys, my Gunners, facing Liverpool. They ended up tying 2-2 this game at the Emirates. Really good game overall. I was really proud of how Arsenal fought, especially early on, especially with a couple injuries, the guys being out, Saliba still suspended. We actually lost Gabriel to an injury in the second half, which makes me really nervous for our back line for the next game. I think Saliba might actually be coming back, but Arsenal opened the scoring here pretty early with a Saka goal. I've mentioned it before a couple times on the podcast, but I have a buddy at work who's also an Arsenal fan. That we kind of go back and forth during the games, and I texted him immediately. I was like, dude, Arsenal are going to concede probably within the 10 minutes or so because we always concede in big games if we go ahead. And lo and behold, Saka scores 9th minute, 18th minute, Van Dijk, boom, one goal back for Liverpool and ties it up 1-1. And we actually went ahead in the 43rd through a Mikel Merino goal. Really nice goal from him as well. I'm glad to see him on the score sheet. A little skeptical of hit that signing just because I didn't really feel like it was quite a good signing as far as a fit as far as the CDM goes, but he gets on the score sheet here in this big game, so I was glad to see that. And then a Mo Salah 81st minute goal to kind of put the dagger in us there at the end. Just an unfortunate set of circumstances there. We almost held on, but Salah always gets that tap in goal against us in the 80 plus. So Frustrating way to go out, but I'll take a tie against Liverpool all day long. So it's top three contending side for sure. So like I said, we're a little bit undermanned at the beginning of the game. So just glad to see us get out of there with a 2-2 draw. Last thing I'll say before I'll hand it over to you for your analysis of the game is one of my buddies from Romania. My boy Marco was at this game, so big shout out to
Ayo,
him.
shout out.
He's probably not listening, but we're still gonna give him the shout out anyway. So it's one of his and our big dreams is to go to an Arsenal game, and he was able to go. So big props to him and really good game to go to. So it's awesome for him. But anyway, what'd you think about this game? I'm not sure if you watched it or not. It was pretty much the best game of the weekend, except for the El Clasico, which we'll get into in a second. But not sure if you were able to catch this game or not.
I did catch this game. We were talking a little bit off pod. I have been sick this past week, and I got sick like literally during our last pod. So since then, it's been a little rough for the old Fezzy boy. But because of that, I did miss church, unfortunately. But like we always say, sometimes when you miss church, it's a little fortunate because you get to watch those Sunday games in full. And this was one of them that I did have on. I was watching the Chelsea Newcastle game right before, and then finished off watching this one. I thought it was a really good game. Arsenal has a lot more fight this year than they did last year. I think like obviously they didn't turn out a huge result, but definitely getting a result against the league leaders definitely helped out Manchester City. You know,
Yeah,
both of you guys dropping points definitely helps them out. But I thought you guys played really well. Saka coming back and scoring was a huge thing for you guys to see. And then Moreno getting his first goal
he
for
was
you guys,
questionable at the beginning, so yeah, it's good to see.
Yeah. So I think overall, like you guys can like be happy it's early in the season. Like if this was a game at the end of the season and you need every point and you guys are drawing to Liverpool, obviously it would hurt a lot more. But plenty of season ahead of you guys. I think it's a good step in the right direction. And obviously, like I said, you guys just have this fight that I didn't see last year, like finishing off games or at least grinding out tough results. Obviously you've had a couple of bad, like really ticky tack red cards that have cost you guys points this year, which is like super unfortunate. But when you guys have everybody going, you guys can compete with anybody. Obviously, we've seen that for the past couple of years.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the feeling of the season is that you feel like it's mid-December already when it's actually only October, just because there's been a couple international breaks and I don't know, it just feels like it's later in the season. But like you were saying, it's still early. Still plenty of time for the other teams up there to drop points, Man City and Liverpool as well. Plenty of time for us to be able to gain some ground. Obviously, the last couple of seasons we've kind of crumbled after around January or so. A little bit less so last season than 2 years ago. We were absolutely we couldn't play with anybody after Christmas 2 years ago. But if we can build on that, that's really where the title will be decided. I think if we can keep up with them and push them to the end like we've done, like we did, I guess, last year. That would be huge for us. And like you were saying about the time on Sunday, this game actually started at 12:30. So if we get more games, if they're going to be on Sunday, to start at 12:30, that'd be perfect. But
that would be nice for sure.
Strings over there at the Premier League offices. So
get her done.
We'll see.
Get her done.
See. But yeah, solid draw for us. We will keep it moving into the next week and hopefully have Saliba back and a couple of our other starters back and hopefully start to gain some ground on those guys at the top of the table. Moving over to Spain, we had arguably I guess it's not even arguable. We had the biggest game in all the world as far as a rivalry, as a derby is concerned. Barcelona playing Real Madrid in the El Clasico. Barcelona not messing around, a little 4-0. 4-0. I would say that this 4-0 is a little bit gracious to the Barcelona side, but nonetheless, very very solid dub. We'll get your thoughts right off the bat here as the old resident Barcelona fan, riding high, I'm sure, after that one.
Yes, sir. I mentioned to you, it was like last minute. I thought about like us dressing up in like costumes, and mine was gonna be like wearing a Barca shirt and like a goat mask and saying I was Messi or whatever. But when this happened, I definitely was like, dude, I just gotta get a Barcelona shirt. I gotta come on the pod just firing because like I have a friend that I played college soccer with. We're both Barcelona fans, and I messaged him like he had a story on, and I was just like, it's so good to have Barcelona like at the moment at the top of football right now, because like we just came off of like 4-0 Bayern in the Champions League and then 4-0 against Real Madrid in the El Clasico, which I was telling you before, like I was kind of a little hyped for this one. Like years past, like Real Madrid was just by far the better team. We were kind of figuring things out, didn't really have players of note. But now with these youngsters coming up and Mbappe being on the other side and Bellingham, and now we got Yamal and Rafinha and Lewandowski, like kind of the names, you can hype it up in your mind a little bit more. So obviously not the rivalry of old with Ronaldo and Messi. It will never be that. It will never touch that ever. Two of the greatest to arguably the greatest to ever do it on opposite sides in La Liga. Just can't beat that. But like you were saying, I firmly agree. Like Real Madrid outplayed us in the first half. Like we can thank our lucky stars that our offsides trap work, and Mbappe, like I think it was like 6 times we caught him offsides.
8 times,
Vinicius didn't
six
take
times in the
some
first half.
chances. Yeah, it was like nuts. So I definitely, even though I'm a Barca fan, I understand the luck that went into that first half. But then we came out in the second half, didn't mess around, threw De Jong out there, and really just took the game to them. And we came out with like a fantastic result. Obviously, you look at 4-0, just like, oh yeah, Barca blew them away. No, we got lucky in the first half. I will admit that as a Barca fan, but it was really good to see that, like just to see Barca back, like doing like Barca things is just like really, really good and like fun for me. But I think like good overall for like football to see some more parity in La Liga than just Real Madrid running away with it every season.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I wouldn't even really consider it luck by Barcelona. The only reason I would say that the score line was a little bit flattering to them was just because obviously all their goals were scored in the second half. I believe two past the 80 minute mark, so kind of throwing it on there late. But yeah, that was kind of the big talking point early on before the game. Was obviously the really high line, I would say, that Barcelona play, how Mbappe would be able to exploit that. That's kind of his bread and butter is running in behind those defense that line. So but obviously they were able to catch him off 6 times in the first half. I think 8 times in total during the game. So obviously their back line didn't crack at all. Had a goal called back actually an Mbappe goal for an offside. So big props to their back line, keeping it organized, keeping it nice and straight there. So big props to them for that. Like you were saying, it's been a long time coming for Barcelona. I feel like it's literally been probably 4 or 5 years since Barcelona's really been competitive
Yeah.
like this with Real Madrid. Like you were saying, it's kind of been Real Madrid the last few years for sure. Even that one year when Xavi won the league, I don't think they even beat Real Madrid, but they just ended up coming out on top. But yeah, it's cool to see them good again for sure. I think it'll spark some more good battles with Real Madrid. I don't think Real Madrid will be as bad as they were the other night going forward. But yeah, it's cool to see them kind of fighting with Real Madrid again in that game. So what do you think about Barcelona here going forward? Obviously doing well in the Champions League, top of the table in La Liga. What do you think as far as what do you think are your goals should be? Maybe not necessarily winning all the tournaments you're in, but what is a good season, I guess, from here?
A good season. Obviously, with what we're doing in La Liga, we should be winning that. So I think that should be the minimum expectation is winning La Liga. Champions League, that's just another animal because you could have some Cinderella team come, and the format's so different now. So like we'll see how that all pans out once we get to knockouts and stuff like that. Making a deep run in the Champions League for sure, because in years, I mean, we've gotten grouped like I think like 2 out of 3 years in the past like
Yeah, you
three
guys
years or
have been
whatever.
Europa teams come
Yeah,
springtime every year. So
yeah, yeah. So it's not been good. So definitely like kind of shaking that off. Obviously, that you can't get. I guess in a way you could get group, but it's not group format. But anyways, making a deep run in the Champions League would be absolutely huge and kind of put us back up there at world football. Win some of this. Like if you're winning La Liga, win some of the smaller cups, um, in your league as well. And I mean, the sky's the limit with this team. We got Yamal, who's super young. Lewandowski's playing at like. Speaking of Lewandowski, like another thing though, you could flip in the Real Madrid game was he missed like an absolute sitter and then another one that he usually puts away. So like he was
Getting
sitting on like
old,
a hat
man.
trick.
Getting old.
He's getting old. He's getting old. He's trying his best out there. No, but I think winning the league at the absolute minimum, just seeing what we did to Real Madrid and how well we're playing, and then deep run in the Champions League, and then you gotta pick up some of the smaller league cups for sure if you're gonna win the league. But
Yeah,
we'll see.
yeah, we'll see for sure. Obviously, with Barcelona in the Champions League, their expectation is to go really far. But if you guys get to like a quarterfinals or something like that, I would say that's pretty good for your first year back competing. I would say in the Champions League, and then maybe try to go for it next year. But yeah,
Absolutely.
Hansi Flick has those boys rolling. Obviously, I think I've been saying this on the podcast for a while now, but I've always kind of been a believer in Hansi Flick. Even when obviously he had that season at Bayern where he won six trophies in one season, which is absolutely insane. Obviously
Mm-hmm.
was a Germany coach. I think he left by mutual agreement there, and he's kind of been floating out there. And Barcelona snap him up, so he's got those boys humming for sure. So good to see Barcelona rolling again for sure. Next, we'll go into some news before we get into the big debate. Manchester United finally sack Eric Ten Hag. Been a long time coming for him to be on the outs with Manchester United. I personally thought he was going to get the boot at the end of last season, but obviously he had that FA Cup that he was able to pull out of somewhere and beat Man City in that final, and I think that was the only reason that they kept him around. Like, oh, maybe like there's hope or whatever. But with Manchester United at 14th in the Premier League, just not doing well at all. Even after a summer where he spent very very big and got some of the players that he wanted, not doing too well at the old Manchester United, not even doing well in Europe either, which is kind of surprising because they're not in the Champions League, but. So he has been given the boot. Very close to signing Ruben Amorim from Sporting Lisbon de Portugal. He's been doing very well in the Portuguese leagues. I think Sporting have won 2 of the last 3 over there, which is a little bit surprising. Obviously, they're part of the big 3 in Portugal, but it's kind of a Benfica and Porto league. So the fact that he's been able to put together 2 out of 3 over there is very impressive, and probably the reason that Manchester United are trying to snap him up. So what do you say, Fezzi, about Manchester United finally giving Ten Hag the boot? And you think this means greener pastures for United going forward?
I mean, it already like their interim Vinicius. Is that I'm saying
Yeah,
that right?
Rude. Good old Rude.
Yeah, they're flying under him already. I mean, obviously it's one
That's how
game.
it
It's kind of like
always is, man. As soon
it's
as
the
they
new
kick out
manager.
yeah,
Yeah, new
always.
manager bump, but some could say that they're already flying, and I'm sure the Manchester United fans are saying that. I don't know a whole lot about this Portugal coach actually, and I don't know anything, so I'll be
He's
completely
young.
honest. But it's been a long time coming for Ten Hag. So I think it's about time that they moved in a different direction. Some of his personnel, like his squads that he's had, have been a little like sus because like I think it's just recently that he's like started Garnacho, and Garnacho is like the only consistent goal scorer they've had
So
for.
dumb,
They get rid
dude.
of McTominay, who's now at Napoli playing like super well. Just
Crazy
saw that
good.
him and Gilmore from Brighton's over there now, and I'm just
Former
like, dude,
Chelsea
like I
boy.
have not been cute. Former Chelsea boy as well, but like it just like I was like, where the heck did they go? And they're over there, but that's besides the point. Definitely a long time coming, definitely needed, and I think it'll serve them well to get a new man. Even if it's just like a new manager bump for a while, they need something to. I think they're saying like I think they were saying after this weekend, there's a world where like they're sitting literally like second out of last in the Premier League because like
Yeah.
certain teams are like probably gonna lose and then they're gonna lose, which will like bump. Yeah, it was
Yeah.
just like it was about time for
It's
sure.
it's crazy that they're that far down on the table. Yeah, always weird vibes with Ten Hag. Obviously came in, immediately started causing problems for lack of a better way of putting it. With Ronaldo, who was the only guy who's really scoring at that point. So obviously freezing him out of the squad, then making a bunch of questionable decisions as far as who he's playing over who he's not. And that was kind of the theme throughout. Obviously, you mentioned a couple things with Garnacho, but he just starting him recently. And yeah, just starting different players at the back, bringing back Johnny Evans because you really don't have another center back. Just just weird vibes all around. His excuses for
uh,
when they would get thrashed by some of their rivals were pretty sus as well. Just as far as like, oh yeah, I liked how we fought today. Dude, what are you
yeah.
talking about? You just got killed 4-1. Like, what are we doing here? So, yeah, he's been on the hot seat for a while now, and just glad to finally see him gone. To be honest, I have a lot of hope for this new guy coming in. Hopefully, he can organize some things. Hopefully, they don't kill him too. But nice young manager. We'll see what he's able to do. I'm glad you mentioned McTominay and Gilmore, though. I've always been such a huge fan of McTominay, just because I feel
Right.
like he kind of plays how I used to play. Obviously, I wasn't as big and like he's like 6'4" or whatever, but yeah, just kind of like that midfield like destroyer role that kind of gets forward sometimes, and just yeah. Anyway, but I'm glad to see him doing good because I feel like he took a lot of the brunt of whatever the Manchester United losses were, just because he would play in the midfield. But he'd
Yeah.
always, if you watched his highlights, he would always put up like good performances and stuff. And for Scotland, he's a tank. So yeah, just cool to see him thriving at Napoli with old Chelsea boy Billy Gilmore. So we'll
Yes,
see
sir.
if old Ruben's able to take Manchester United to new heights. One thing that he does have going for him is that you can't do much worse than 14th. So he'll have basically this whole season to basically anything from here is going to be a plus and something he can build
Uh-huh.
on. So we'll
Yeah.
see how he's able to get those boys going in the right direction with Rude probably as his assistant. So we'll see how that goes. We will now go into the big debate of the week here in football. The biggest award, individual award, the Ballon d'Or was given out this last week, not without much fanfare and debate, as the last probably 5 years, I would say, of giving out this award has been. Just lots of debate, lots of questions of robbery, lots of questions of just sketch, whatever. Rodri, Manchester City player and Spain midfielder, has won this award over Vinicius Jr., Real Madrid man. Rodri obviously winning the Champions League and not the Champions League, the Premier League and the Euros. Vinicius on the other end winning La Liga and the Champions League with Real Madrid. A lot of scandal, I guess, going on around the award ceremony itself. It was leaked pretty early on before the ceremony that Vinicius would not win it. Therefore, all of Real Madrid's everyone basically from the club that was going to be going canceled their trip immediately. Ended up boycotting the event just because they thought Vinicius was going to win, should have won. This has sparked a lot of debate from around the world, which we'll get into in just a second. But even from players that are outside of maybe special interests like a Brazil or a Real Madrid player, like I saw Frank Ribery pipe up. I saw Wayne Rooney. I saw the likes of Wesley Sneijder in there, just saying that the Ballon d'Or's lost all its credibility or just laughing at it. Yeah, basically, this is like 5 years in a row of Ballon d'Or really lacking credibility, and I think a lot of people think that they should just go to the what's it called, the best football men's player or something like that, because that one seems more legitimate. All that being said, what do we think, old Fezzy boy? I'll give my opinion after you, but I know you're following a little bit on the Rodri side of this, but what do you have to say against the likes of Frank Ribery and Wesley Sneijder?
Yeah, my little opinion won't mean a whole lot compared to theirs, but no, I saw this one that was saying this is a bit of a cleansing for the Ballon d'Or, which I personally agree with. But with that being said, I will preface with saying I can see why people think he was snubbed. First of all, people look at goals, they look at accomplishments, club and country. Obviously, like the Champions League should be holding quite a bit of like weight in this debate. And
Mhm.
Vinicius scoring in the Champions League and leading his team to a Champions League title, like huge, absolutely huge. In my opinion, it kind of falls along the Ronaldo and Messi debate in a way. Like one side, you have an all around football player who contributes to winning in so many different ways, and the stats and record doesn't lie. When Rodri's not there, Manchester City isn't quite what they are with him. I think he had like this crazy unbeaten streak when he was still playing for a while. And then you have Vinicius on the other hand, who is scoring goals, flashy, uh, really quick up the left wing, assists, like does all the things that contribute to winning as well. So I think it was kind of just refreshing from fans like me to see a six like Rodri win it, and in my opinion deserved to win it. But I think like when it comes down to the top two, I feel like you could flip a coin and it's like, you deserve it. So it really comes down to like what you view as valuable. And
Mhm.
I'm a Messi guy, and I like obviously Ronaldo's gonna he's trying to get to 1,000 goals, which would be like crazy, like absolutely crazy. And I see him as the greatest goal scorer that the game has ever seen. But I see Messi as just plain and simple the best football player that's ever played because just his all around talent, besides obviously maybe the defensive side, which you could say Ronaldo has a little bit more just with his physicality. But that's just how I view the game. And also, I think it comes down to like what you personally played as well. Like I'm literally throwing that in too because I played a six the whole time and I know what it goes into like doing that. But at the end of the day, the hardest thing in the game is to score goals, and Vinicius can do that. So I could see him easily getting it. But I like seeing Rodri get it, and I think he deserved it. I don't know what you have to say about that, but that's my
Yeah,
side.
I mean, I don't think. First of all, I'm not really like, even though I'm a Madrid fan, I'm not really that huge of a Vinicius fan. I think his antics are over the top. Like, yeah, it's just, yeah, he's a kind of a disrespectful player. I think he's a whiner. I think he's a diva. But I don't think that this robbery was as bad as everyone's kind of making it out to be. Especially compared to other robberies in the past.
Mm.
um, just 2018, like there's other years that we can get into, and maybe this is a different one for a different time. But I don't think it was as bad. Just because I think that there's a good case for Rodri to be made, kind of what you were saying. And there's also, I think, a pretty equal case for Vinicius as well. I think the fact that Real Madrid boycotted the event, kind of is making it into this huge thing. It's like, oh, it's one of the biggest robberies of all time. I don't think it's quite to that level. Just because, like you were saying, obviously Rodri is really important to Man City, like you said. Huge streak of like 30 something odd games without a loss when he's in the Man City team. Man City, I think I saw at the end of last year, they had 5 games in a row without him, and they had lost 2 and drawn another 2, something like that. So obviously he's integral to that Man City team, regardless of how many, multi-million dollar players they have playing over there. So obviously he's really important to that team as well as the Spain team that won the Euros this past summer. Vinicius, I would kind of say the same thing though. Obviously without him, Madrid stuttered a little bit last season. I guess I'm just a little bit confused because like the Rodri didn't make the Champions League Team of the Year. He didn't make the Premier League Team of the Year, which is kind of surprising. I think he was hurt for a little bit of it, which kind of I think it went to Rice, I believe, but. He didn't make either one of those. He didn't win the player of the tournament for the Premier League. He didn't win the player of the tournament for the Euros. So it's just kind of like what are we basing it on? Obviously, he doesn't have the stats like Vinicius does, but again, he doesn't need to have them necessarily. But like, what are we basing it on? Like, what's the criteria? I feel like that changes every year. With Vinicius obviously leading his team to a Champions League victory, not doing as well in the Copa America, obviously with the struggling Brazil squad. So I will say that. But then at the same time, like, why are we doing all the individual awards based on it's seemingly at least like international tournaments now?
Mm-hmm.
So it's super strange. Like Emiliano Martinez winning the best goalkeeper of the year. That's a super out of nowhere. Aston Villa haven't done anything. They made it to the Champions League, but solid for them. But I feel like that's kind of based on Argentina's run win the Copa America. So just super weird. I feel like the criteria changes every year. I would be for um, just either changing the award or going to a more like the men's best player or something like that. That's been given out the last few years. That's been given to what I believe is the more deserving player, at least the last few years for sure. It seems like the France Football, which is the newspaper or the magazine that gives out the Ballon d'Or, it's voted on by journalists, and I
Mm-hmm.
think obviously, you can debate this. We can debate this at a different time, but like, especially the last time Messi won it, like, probably shouldn't have won it. So it's probably just them rooting for Messi. And I feel like a lot of them are just Barca fans. And I think that might have been part of the reason that Vinicius got snubbed, just because he's a Madrid guy and they
Mm-hmm.
just don't want to see a Madrid guy get it. That's, whatever. I don't think, like I said, it was that big of a snub. I can see for both sides. would I have I lean a little bit Vinicius, but I can see Rodri getting it as well. My problem is more just with the whole award, I guess, as a whole, and it just seems like it's like I remember 2010, like Ballon d'Or was the thing. Like, obviously there's going to be debates for different years, but now I feel like it's just losing more and more credibility as the years goes on. Whether that's legitimate or not, you can say one way or the other, but yeah, I guess that's kind of all I have to say about that. But I just wish that there was a better way, a more solid criteria, I guess, as well, of like what we're expecting year in, year out. It just doesn't seem like that's super clear. And it just doesn't seem like there's a good way to vote on this if it's not just because it's just a bunch of journalists voting on it right now. I don't think that's the best way to do it. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about that. But I don't know if you have a rebuttal or agree
no, I don't have
or
a rebuttal.
whatever.
I think everything you said is like very valid, and like the point, like I'm not like questioning you. I'm just like putting the question out there, like what would make the award better? Like who should be voting on it? Like so, like you can't really have the coaches
100%. You should have. Go ahead.
Coaches.
Some coaches, yeah, some coaches. Some players, like I understand that they're going to come in probably with their own biases, but I think it's better if you have players voting on it. I think there's fewer biased players out there, former players at least. You can't have current players. I don't really want current players to vote. Former players, I think you can. Obviously, they're going to have biases, but I think that they'll probably still have less biases than the journalists that are currently voting on it.
Right.
Even if the journalists aren't that biased, I just like, why are we having journalists who like probably more than half of them have never kicked a ball in their lives? Like, what are we doing here?
Yeah.
So
no, that makes sense. Yeah, I think if you had like a good like spread of like you can't have current like you said, but like players, former players, and then maybe you could do coaches as well. Like if you had a good mix of like former players, coaches.
Correct. Yeah, some media personalities, like I'm trying to think, like obviously Thierry Henry, Jamie Carragher, and Michael Richards are all former players, but maybe guys like that obviously know the game. Yeah, just maybe some guys like that instead of the journalists, like you were saying.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but what a different time that we're living in, where like, what did Vinicius have, like 19 goals and like 10 assists, and that's like a world class like Ballon d'Or worthy winning like it wasn't quite 19, it was like 23 or something like that.
Yeah, in all competitions, it was definitely in the 20s, I think. But
yeah, but something like that, and then we had like we're never gonna have like a Ronaldo and Messi like ever again. Like that run is for all time till the end of time. Like just out of this world. Like you have to give it to one of those two, or don't give it to anybody.
Yeah,
because they were
it's
just
like
blowing everybody's out of the water every year.
Yeah, it's like regardless of who lost the Ballon d'Or in that specific year to the other one, like the loser was still scoring like 45, 50 goals and 25 assists in the season, and they were losing to
right
to Ronaldo or Messi respectively. So it's a crazy time. We were spoiled for sure.
Dude, absolutely spoiled. Like it makes me sad every time I see like on Instagram just like those reels of just like how good we had it. Like even like Neymar reels, dude. I'm just like, it was so much fun watching like the old footballers with like true creativity. Like
or like
nowadays
the
it's
Madrid
just like
2017
athletes.
team with
oh my word, just so good, man, so good. Well, sure. I think we see like half eye to eye, and then we're split on some things for sure. But that's all right. But
I'd say we're more in agreement though on this than in disagreement though. I would say.
I would say so too. Like I think we both lean slightly one way, but like we're like right in the middle on the fact that like the Ballon d'Or is kind of like just chalked at this point.
We'll see what we're able to do with it going forward, but.
Maybe they should let us vote on it, the people.
Yeah, we're part of the media, right?
We're part of the media. We get a Ballon d'Or vote. Like Greeny has like a NBA All-Star vote. Like, give us a Ballon d'Or vote. Is it just that? Is also the problem with the Ballon d'Or? Like, it's just that magazine, right? Like, it's not pundits as a whole. Yeah. It's like, that's correct. A huge problem. Like, like their biases within that magazine like company or organization or whatever you want to call it, like that's what's controlling the best player in the world, yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
That's an absolute problem.
I don't think it was always like that either, like going back
I don't think so either.
decades, but I don't know.
I think they're like we were saying, their job was so much easier because it was like flip a coin, Ronaldo or Messi. People are going to be upset regardless. So flip a coin that year. Who's the best player in the world?
You're right.
Like some years it was truly like that. Obviously, there were some years where it's like, okay, yeah, Messi had the better year.
It's like who won more trophies? All right, here you go.
Yeah, who won the Champions League that year? Like, give it to them.
Right.
Which they didn't do because Ronaldo lost some when he won the Champions League. So that's a whole other debate we could get into as well. But
yeah,
I think that's a pod, Sammy.
That is a pod.
All right. We appreciate you guys tuning in this week. Finally back at it on a Thursday night. It really is the perfect night because you have football starting. Usually if you have Champions League that week, that's all done by this time. Getting ready for college football that starts up tomorrow night. Like, it's really the best night. But, you know, life's busy. What you gonna do? But yeah, we appreciate you guys for tuning in. Check us out on our platforms, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Again, we appreciate you guys, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.